Sorry for the little pause there. I was still typing as Wake the Beast gave that beautiful soliloquy. Well, so I'm going to say this off the bat. We're going to get heated in here. I'm just letting y'all know that now. Dave Chappelle is a cerebral comedian. And so as such, I can understand why it would be really hard for a lot of people to understand the comedy that he's actually giving, right? These same individuals would love things like Big Bang Theory because it has a laughing track telling them when to laugh. All of his jokes were freaking amazing. If you missed it, well, that says something about your mental capacity. Anyway, Dave stated that people shouldn't be able to know your punchlines, right? And I feel like he says that you should always be ahead of people whenever you're delivering your comedy. And because Dave Chappelle is such a genius and he's always talking about things that a lot of times what comedians typically do is talk about things that we haven't really understood. This time, I felt like I knew his punchlines and a lot of the trans jokes that he was going to make. I knew them before he gave them. I was delivering them. I watched it by myself before he did. And I think the reason for that is that we've been forced in this community to have interactions and conversations about the trans community such that we've understood things in a way that the average American wouldn't. I can say confidently that I've interacted with content or direct conversations with more trans people than literally my entire family combined just from this platform alone. And I'm talking extended family. And so this has forced us into conversations that we otherwise wouldn't have had. So then that means now that while Dave Chappelle is reaching all of these new heights and these new conversations and these new observations about this community, this is old news for us because we're being forced. So in a way, the trans community has robbed me of the splendor of this special because half of these jokes I wasn't able to really freaking get because they've been forcing me into the conversation. I can't say forced, but I've been engaging in these conversations. So I didn't get the full beauty of this thing as it would have been the first time had I been watching this like the average American. But it also speaks to the greatness of this thing, the fact that I knew where he was going with these things, meaning that he's forcing these same conversations through his comedy on all these other Americans. I think Dave is also a great example of the weakness and the temporary nature of cancel culture. Cancel culture believes that it has the power to inflict great harm on everyone and stop them from being able to be successful and try to cut off their connection to power and influence so that they can't be successful anymore. But Dave Chappelle is immune to that. He can't be canceled. They've tried. At one point, he got like a pretty much media blackout, and he continued to do his specials for God knows how long, being incredibly successful, and then was able to leverage two specials that he had already recorded with the promise of a third for $50 million, the total amount that he walked away from. Then this same individual goes and so he makes a brand new special, and now at this point Netflix is actually the face of comedy. Does everybody remember when the whole dream was to get an HBO comedy special? That changed because of Dave Chappelle. He has that kind of power. Then on top of that, the show that he walked away from, because of his contract, they were able to produce an extra season and he had no rights to it. So when they got the redistribution rights and started streaming it on all these other various platforms, Dave Chappelle wasn't getting a penny. He called for a boycott. And like something that I've never seen before, in a contract that was already said and done, that was over a decade old, the big company capitulated and said, hey, we've done you wrong. Let's rope you back in here and make sure you're paid for your comedy and for your thing, because people probably were going to boycott. Then you have the most powerful community in the LGBTQ community in existence, the trans community, that has actually attempted to cancel Dave Chappelle over his special. And guess what? Netflix said, hell nah. Dave Chappelle said this might be my last comedy special in a while. He lying. They can't do anything to him. He's that powerful, that influential, that important to public conversation and social ideology. And I think this special exemplified that, and I think he's great. And I think anybody that's saying that they can't appreciate those jokes, well, I've said everything I need to say about y'all.